guys, and welcome back to another video right here on TetraBitGaming. If there's one thing Nintendo is known for, it's trying new, sometimes outlandish things in order to try and revolutionize how people play video games. Unfortunately, not all of Nintendo's innovations broke through to the mainstream like the D-pad or Wii motion controls. Over the years, Nintendo has experimented with several peripheral attachments and accessories which, quite frankly, outside of a few functions or games, didn't really have much use. As such, in this video, I will be going over what I think are some of Nintendo's least useful accessories and peripherals. To help me out with this video, I have also brought along one of the biggest Nintendo collectors I know, fellow Minus World member Nintendrew.
Hey guys, Nintendrew here. For this list, we will only be considering first-party Nintendo accessories that offer some sort of interesting gimmick for their respective console. So that means no crappy Wii Remote attachments, and also no standard controllers.
Anyways, with all of that said, here we go with our list of Nintendo's least useful accessories and peripherals. Starting off this list at number 8 is going to be a controversial one for sure. Announced in 2014, Amiibo was Nintendo's entry into the Toys to Life market, which at the time was insanely popular. I'm sure many of you remember how hard it was to find certain Amiibo a few years ago, and to this day, many of them are still hard to track down. Using NFC technology, these toys can be used with the Wii U, 3DS, and Switch for a variety of different in-game effects. Now, don't get me wrong, I love Amiibo. I have like over 60 of them, and I probably have to take out another loan to keep buying them. That being said, their actual usefulness in games is kind of a mixed bag. Honestly, the biggest use for them is still in Super Smash Bros. For the Wii U and 3DS, which came out on the same day as the Amiibo. In those games, you could scan in the Amiibo to unlock a computer-controlled version of the character which you could fight and train.
Yes! Come on! Hey, little Bromeo.
But outside of having some Amiibo-only fights, I personally didn't use the Amiibo feature all too much. In other games like Mario Kart 8, The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild, Super Mario Odyssey, and many others, the Amiibo basically just unlocked special costumes and items. Obviously there are some exceptions to this, but for the most part, simple cosmetic items or small game tweaks are all the Amiibo do. There's also a split in Nintendo's fanbase on the usefulness of the Amiibo. On one hand, you have fans not happy that they don't have much use and would prefer Nintendo give more exclusive Amiibo content. But on the flip side, other fans weren't keen on what they would consider Nintendo putting a paywall on content that was already on the disc. So it's likely been a challenge for Nintendo to find a good balance and try to please everyone. But unfortunately, for the most part, the Amiibo really don't have all too much of a use. Now personally, I just like collecting them as figures, and really any added in-game feature, for me, is just a bonus.
Up next at number 7 is the mouse controller for the Super Nintendo Entertainment System. Many gamers will automatically associate this one with Mario Paint, as this peripheral was bundled with the game and specifically designed for it. As useful as it was in Mario Paint, aside from that, the mouse didn't really see all that much action, at least not outside of Japan. Sure, it could be used for Wolfenstein 3D, Doom, and other classic violent games like Mario's early years preschool fun, but in North America only about 30 games had support for the Super Nintendo mouse. For those games that did support it, the intention was to give the player a similar experience to that of playing on a PC, but I guess this controller option never really caught on with most Super Nintendo owners. And for the owners that did enjoy the experience, bigger titles like Donkey Kong Country and Super Mario World didn't offer any support for the accessory for pretty obvious reasons. But apparently this must have upset some people because Nintendo had to include a warning message with certain games explaining that the mouse was incompatible. But I mean, people play Super Mario 64 with Guitar Hero controllers, so I guess pretty much anything is possible.
Coming in at number 6 is probably my favorite accessory on this list, the Nintendo 64 Transfer Pack. This accessory is most well known for being bundled with and used in Pokemon Stadium for the Nintendo 64. The Transfer Pack was a pretty big deal back in the day, as for the first time, players would be able to transfer their Pokemon from the Game Boy games into the 3D world. Not only could you transfer Pokemon, but you could also play your copy of Pokemon Blue, Red, or Yellow on the big screen. Unfortunately, like many of the other accessories on this list, outside of Japan and Pokemon Stadium, the Transfer Pack didn't see as much use as I think it could have. First off, aside from Pokemon Stadium 1 and 2, the other only real notable game out west that made use of the transfer pack were Mario Golf, Mario Tennis, and Perfect Dark. And those just let you transfer some human characters that I don't think many people really cared about, and Perfect Dark let you unlock some weapons and items. Nothing special. The weirdest thing to me though is that we saw that it could be used to play Game Boy games on the big screen, kind of like the Super Game Boy for the Super Nintendo or the Game Boy Player for the GameCube. So why did they not expand on this with the transfer pack to be able to play more Game Boy games? I assume it was due to some technical limitations, but if Pokemon was possible, I'm sure it couldn't have been that much more difficult to implement. And I guess it was even closer than I thought. With some modification, YouTuber Mesmerize was actually able to trick the game into loading Super Mario Land on the N64. If the transfer pack could have played any Game Boy game, it would have been used like crazy. But I suppose it will forever mostly be known for just use with Pokemon Stadium.
Back in the day, when Mario Party games were still decent, Nintendo designed a microphone for the GameCube. This microphone would plug into one of the memory card slots and could be used for a select few titles. And how few those titles were. In North America, there are 4 whole games that have any major support for the GameCube mic. Mario Party 6 and 7 for a handful of minigames, Karaoke Revolution Party for singing, and Odama, which is admittedly a neat pinball strategy game in which the player can command a fleet of soldiers with certain voice commands. Chibi Robo also had a small Easter egg triggered by the microphone, but nothing major.
The mic really works as well as you'd expect it to. In Mario Party, I found it really just detects if you make a sound or not, and it really doesn't matter what you say. Odama, on the other hand, had like 11 commands that you could give, but again, nothing too complex. I feel like there could have been more potential to use a microphone in some other GameCube games, but the quality of the GameCube microphone was lacking, and anything better probably would have been too expensive. The microphone is a neat little accessory which unfortunately didn't see much use, and the use that it did see was pretty underwhelming. In the late 90s, the idea of having a game that let you speak with Pikachu sounded like a pretty exciting concept.
What?
And since Pokemania was in full swing, Nintendo decided to attempt it. Only problem is, it kinda sucked.
The Voice Recognition Unit, or VRU for short, was released in 2000 along with the game Hey You Pikachu for the Nintendo 64. This game lets you use the VRU microphone to talk and control Pikachu with your voice in the style of a pet simulation game. The unit would essentially convert the player's voice into signals that the game could then interpret.
And guess how many games in North America made use of the VRU? No, really, take a guess. 3? 5? 372? Nope, 1. Just one game actually used this contraption right here. Furthermore, since the VRU was only meant for Hey You Pikachu, which Nintendo anticipated to be only played by younger fans, the VRU was actually calibrated for best recognition with higher pitched voices. So most teenage and adult males likely would have had trouble properly using the VRU. To me, the VRU honestly just looks like a quick cash grab. Seeing as it was only envisioned for the one game, Nintendo obviously didn't intend for the VRU to have much use anywhere else. But I'm sure enough copies of Hey You Pikachu sold to make it worth their while anyway. So you'd think after the Nintendo 64 VRU and the GameCube mic, Nintendo would learn their lesson with developing a microphone unit for less than like 5 games. Well, apparently not, for in 2008, Nintendo revealed the Wii Speak accessory along with Animal Crossing City Folk for the Nintendo Wii. Besides Animal Crossing, the only other games to offer support for this accessory were The Conduit, Endless Ocean Blue World, and Monster Hunter Tri. But unlike the 2 previously mentioned microphones, the Wii Speak didn't really have any in-game affecting use, but instead was just used to talk to other players online. Now, why someone would want to pick up all the noise in a room instead of just using a headset microphone is beyond me. But hey, this is Nintendo dealing with online gaming we're talking here.
Of course, the Wii had other great games with online play such as Mario Kart Wii and Super Smash Bros. Brawl. But for whatever reason, no support for the Wii Speak was ever added to these games. And if anything, those were the games that would have benefited the most from an accessory like this. Heck, it's 2018 and Nintendo still really hasn't quite figured out online voice chat, so alas, the search continues.
These days, when people hear e-reader, they usually associate it with one of those ebook devices like the Kindle or Kobo. But in the early 2000s, e-reader had a whole different meaning. In December of 2001, the Nintendo e-reader was released, and with its LED scanner, this neat little device allowed players to swipe special e-reader cards that had some encoded data printed on them. The e-reader had special cards for several games, including Pokemon Ruby and Sapphire, Super Mario Advance 4, and the Japanese versions of some Mega Man Battle Network games. Now, I am a huge Battle Network fan, and I didn't know these existed until now, but never have I wanted some paper rectangles so badly. The e-reader cards would grant the player a variety of effects, such as extra levels or items in a game. My favorite uses of the cards were the special e-reader series Pokemon cards, which unlocked various small things, such as Pokemon bios, a coin flipper, and even some minigames. There were also card sets released for various classic NES games, and by scanning the 5 included cards, sometimes twice, a full NES game could be loaded. I think it's mind-blowing that at the time, a full NES game could be loaded just by swiping a few cards. Another thing that I didn't know was that there was a full Mario Party e-reader exclusive game. This game featured a real-life board and card set, and the cards could be swiped to load minigames and some other game effects. As cool and fascinating as this device might seem, it never really got too popular in North America, and although it was announced in Europe, it was almost immediately cancelled there, so very few were made. Due to its underwhelming performance in North America, the e-reader was discontinued less than 2 years after it was released. But in Japan, where it sold much better, it lasted all the way into 2008. So even though I think its function was really awesome, since it was only really used in like 5 or 6 games, in the grand scheme of things, the e-reader unfortunately isn't all too useful. And finishing off this list at the #1 spot are the AR cards used with the Nintendo 3DS line of handhelds. Pretty much how these cards worked was you would just put them on a surface and then view them with the 3DS camera, and then on the 3DS screen, usually a 3D model of the card in question would appear. And for the most part, aside from maybe a few mini-games, that's it. You could see these models in an augmented reality on your 3DS screen and take pictures of them.
There are a few exceptions to this, like in Tetris Axis, which lets you play augmented reality Tetris in 3D, which is pretty neat, and Kid Icarus Uprising, which actually made the most use of AR cards by far. Over 400 different cards were made for this game, featuring characters, enemies, and weapons. Again, with the 3DS camera pointed at them, the characters would come to life, but not only could you just take pictures of them, if 2 character cards were pointed at each other, the characters would actually battle on screen.
But that's really where their usefulness stops. I guess Nintendo bundled the AR card sets with every 3DS as kind of a tech demo to showcase the 3DS's graphics and camera capabilities. But the problem is, the idea was never really worked on or improved. Through Club Nintendo, you could also get a larger AR card so you could see a larger Mario or Mii character on your 3DS. How exciting. You can now download the giant AR card from the Nintendo website for free to print in any size. And apparently the 3DS will display the image at a size relative to that of the card. So I'd love to see someone print out an absolutely massive card and make the world's largest Mii. And there you have it, our list of Nintendo's least useful accessories and peripherals, and I hope you enjoyed it. Do you agree with my list? If you do, or think there are some other things that should have made it to the list, be sure to let me know down in the comment section below. And also a special thank you to Nintendrew for helping out with today's video. So be sure to check out his channel for some awesome Nintendo related stuff, from DIYs to reviews. And if you're new to this channel and enjoyed the video, please be sure to check out my other countdown videos by clicking on the card right here. And if you want to stay even more up to date with me and the channel, be sure to subscribe and follow me over on my other social media pages, which will all be linked in the description below. And as always guys, thank you all so much for watching today and for all of your amazing support, and I will see you in a bit.